What's up guys, it's your favorite Kiwi coach. Welcome back to another student before and after video. This one's going to be a good one. Let's go do this thing. So welcome back to the channel guys. If you guys are new to Kiwi Golf Japan, we do a bunch of videos like this every single week. So what you got to go do is hit that little red subscribe button, smash the like button, please leave a comment, let us know your thoughts, and as always, share the video, it really does help. Let's hop into the first part of this video. So hopping into the first part of this video, what I wanted to talk about was really kind of the backswing changes we made with this player, as well as the transition moves that we changed with this player, and ultimately how I think that over the time of about 3 to 4 months, this player with continued practice is going to get so much better with controlling their curvature and their low point, which again was what they were struggling with. So without further ado, let's go hop in and talk about the backswing. So if we take a look at the before swing, this player struggled with an overswing. So if we get up to the top, I'll kind of pause it here. Now there's a little bit of an emoji that's blocking where the club head is, but the club head's roughly somewhere over here. Hands are pretty high, right? The lead arm is pretty high. It's kind of more so of like a Bubba look or a John Daly look. Now there's nothing wrong with an overswing per se, but you got to understand what tool you're utilizing at the current time, right? And when he's hitting his irons, he's going for control, right? You want your long to short dispersion control, your left or right dispersion control. The longer the swing, the more likely you are to add more club head speed. Golf ball, yes, is probably going to go a lot further, but at the same time, more club head speed, golf ball further, means more opportunity to go offline. And again, if we're going with irons, especially kind of 7-iron to short irons, we want to make sure that we're going more so for control than we are going for distance. So that would be a reason why we would want to change this swing. Now, if we go take a look at the after swing, we're going to see a much different looking position at the top. And let me kind of zoom out a little bit so you guys can see that. So now, obviously the big difference that you're going to see is that now the club head is right around here as opposed to before, remember, it was kind of over here, right? So a lot less cross the line, a lot less longer of a golf swing. Also, if we kind of take note, we can see that the lead arm is much, much lower in this other swing, which was what we were also working on as well. Because again, whenever we get the lead arm really high, what happens is you're going to have to be much more patient in transition with clearing your hips and really getting the sequence for you to get connected before you start to churn again, right? So really long swing, you got to be really patient. Most people aren't going to be patient. You're going to get really over-rotated, really rotating early, and it's going to be hard for you to not get stuck, and a lot of bad things can happen from there. Now, overall, this was pretty much the backswing change. Now, you're going to see a couple minor things that we worked on too. If you take a look at the trail leg right here, you can see that the knee is a lot less flexed than it was before, which also means that now that he's extending that trail knee, he's getting maybe just a little bit more hip rotation, because one of the issues this player struggled with as well was early internal rotation of the trail hip, which is a fancy way of saying the trail hip moved towards the golf ball a little early in transition, which also kind of got the hand stuck, right? So overall, this is pretty much the changes of the backswing, right? Lead arm a little bit lower, got rid of that overswing, and then we got the knee obviously a little bit more extended, a little bit more hip churn. And now this player is set and in a good position where he can now start thinking about making the correct downswing motion. So let's go hop into the transition and show you what we fixed. So with transition, and if you guys watched our P5 through P10 or P1 through P4 webinars, we go through checkpoints and kind of all these positions of what I would call my preference. So if you guys are interested in those webinar checkpoints, we'll leave a link in the description below to our shop. You guys got to go check those out. There's over 140 minutes of instruction currently in those recordings, and are only like 1,000 yen, so they're really cheap. So go check those out. But what I currently just did there was this line right here. I drew it from the golf ball, and then you put it through the trail shoulder. And again, this is a hand path line. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you guys have probably seen this before. And then we're going to do the same thing on before swing. And I want you guys to take a look at how different these transitions are going to be. So taking a look at the before swing, if we kind of turn him down to position 5, we can immediately see that the hand path starts working way outwards towards the golf ball, right? You see how far in front of this line these hands currently are. This would be what I would classify as a hand path, moving too far outwards towards the golf ball. If you guys have watched our last video with, not last video, a couple videos ago with Tass, when he was talking about kind of beta force, alpha force, all that good stuff, when the hand path moves early out towards the golf ball, like it is on the left of the screen here, that is what they call early negative beta force, which is really common with a lot of Japanese professional golfers, as well as just the Japanese in general. And what we're starting to find, at least this is my personal opinion, but I think the data will back this up, is that the instruction that they were getting on trying to get the hands to take the shortest route they could possibly take towards the golf ball is causing this early negative beta force, which is going to get the club torquing in a pretty hard spot to where you have to really torque, and obviously you got to use your body as well to try to square this club face up, and we'll show that a little bit later here. But let's go take a look at the after transition. Now if we take a look at the after transition, we're going to see that the hand path is taking obviously a much different route. So again, now his hands are actually below this line and they're a little bit behind the sternum, which I think is more so the preference I prefer. Now if you're hitting a fade, you could probably be a little bit closer to this line, but for most people who I think out there watching this probably want to hit a draw, that's most amateur golfers, this is a pretty good spot for you to be, right? Hands slightly behind the sternum, not too far, not too low, right? And then it's just much better, I believe, personally, than the one over here on the left. So to sum that up for transition, really the main component we changed was the hand path, right? Now, a lot of the top of swing position work where we got the lead arm a little bit lower, club shaft a little bit better, made this position 5 change much easier for him to attain. But he still had to do quite a bit of work, and that might be for a whole nother separate video. We're actually thinking about doing live lessons, webinars in the future, and then selling them as recordings as well. So you might get to see kind of our process of how we kind of change these students' swings live, which I think would be really interesting. But ultimately, he ended up changing, which was really good. And from here, I want to talk about from position 5 into the golf ball, and really kind of what type of torques he's using differently than he was before, and then ultimately how I think that's going to make him much more of a consistent golfer. Now, as we can see in the before swing, club shaft was in a pretty steep position here, right? So again, this line drawn down towards the golf ball is not the most accurate representation of club shaft pitch, but I think visually you guys can see that he has a pretty steep club shaft here. And what's going to happen is he has really kind of two options. He can continue to steepen the club shaft, spin out of the shot, and kind of get that, I call it old school slicer look. You ever see a slicer in your group that you play with who just spins out and hits this big 30-yard banana slice every time? That's the first option you can pretty much do from there. The second option, which is more so the intermediate level golfer option, which is what he did, was he actually started to reroute the hands and then reroute the club shaft pitch, right? So he's putting a certain torque as well as he's forcing the hands a certain way to try to get this club shaft and club head to get behind the hands at position 6, right? Which he did a pretty good job right here. So he was super steep here, gets into a relatively okay position 6. The only issue is that his hands are still pretty far out towards the golf ball, as well as if we kind of take a look here, he's a little over rotated here. The elbow's a little stuck as well. So other than those two things, he did a decent job from getting in this crazy transition place and getting into a manageable place, right? And that's what the intermediate golfers typically do from there, is they get steep and then they figure out a way to try to shallow out the club. Now from this position, because he had to torque the club in a way to get it this way so late in the golf swing, he's going to have a really hard time squaring up the golf club. And because of this, he's going to start utilizing his body to start moving away from the golf ball, as well as the torques that he's putting on the club with the hands. He's going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff here trying to get this club to come in from a decent angle of attack as well as a decent entry point, right? And then as you can see from here to here, he does a decent job of rotating through the shot, but again, it's just not quite as good as it could be. He's a little flippy through here. You can tell the club face is a little unstable, and it's really just not as stable as it needs to be for him to be that low handicap golfer consistently, right? He wants to be about a 3-2, maybe even a scratch golfer. So keeping that in mind, that is why if your hand path works out, you have a steep club shaft, it's going to be really hard for you to control the club face effectively, in my personal opinion, to hit this golf ball. Now from here, if we go take a look at the after, again, club shaft pitch is in a much better spot, and let me draw the club shaft pitch the way that you probably should, right? I usually do it with an angle here. So he's over right around 36 degrees, which is a pretty neutral, pretty good spot to be. It's not too flat, not too steep. He's in this spot now where you can actually start to pitch the club out towards the golf ball, start applying some torques to get that club head moving out, which is what you want to be doing from position 5. And then from here, we can see that now he gets into a spot where the club head's slightly behind the hands, but What he does have going for him is the elbow's now more so in front of the body than it was before, as well as the hips haven't cleared as much, which means he still has some room to rotate through the shot, so he's not going to be utilizing as much of that body to try to throw the club head out towards the golf ball. And then as he gets into impact, he still needs to kind of work on from position 60 here. You can kind of see that he lets the club head get a little bit underneath the hands, which is, again, a little bit of a side effect of his old golf swing, right? When he was so steep, he had to put so much motion this way to try to get that club coming from the inside. He still has a little bit of that from position 6. So it gets a little underneath it here. He hits a little bit off the toe here, but the release is looking better. He looks like he has a little bit more control over the club. And really, I would say he's probably about 65% done with kind of his swing change currently. So to wrap things up with this video, first off, big changes here. Top of swing position is so much better, right? We did that with our implementation process. The way that he's forcing the grip out towards the golf ball has completely changed, right? So he's in such a better spot here. And then from position 5 to position 6, he's doing a much better job of really just not getting over-rotated, as well as he's playing the correct forces and torques on the club. And then from position 6 into the golf ball, I still think he needs some work, which is what future lessons is going to be. And then follow through, obviously, I think could do a little bit of work as well. But overall, I'm really happy with this student's progress so far. These two videos were taken, obviously, 2 separate lessons. The first video was the first lesson for swing. This last video on the right was his second lesson, one of the later swings in the lesson after we had, gone through our process. So really happy with the results. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Take home points for you guys, really important to make sure that, again, the closer you get down into impact, the harder it is for you to start torquing the club, forcing the club, and really just manipulating the club. So you got to be having these positions, definitely from position 4, to where you can get into much more easier positions for you to force and torque that club. Get out of position too much, you're going to have a lot of struggles. If you're in a decent position, you're probably going to be a pretty solid golfer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. We'll have some more videos coming soon. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys again next time.